What are you? This is a question I got a lot when I was growing up. And what people meant was, what ethnicity are you? And the answer is, on my mom's side, I'm Filipino. And on my dad's side, I'm white. Technically, it's some mix of English, German, and Swiss. Actually, my dad has traced our family tree back to ancestors who fought in the American Revolutionary War. So I'm what you call mixed race. And it fascinates me how these two different lineages came together to form me. So today I'd like to share with you a few stories about how that came to be. First, on my dad's side, my grandma was a Midwestern girl from a small town in Illinois, daughter of a high school principal. She was a young lady at the time of World War II, and she was in love with a young man who was in the Army Air Corps. Unfortunately, while flying a bombing run, he was shot down and killed. This tragic event was devastating to my grandma. But if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. Because after mourning the loss of her boyfriend, she met another young serviceman, my grandpa. He asked her to marry him, and they picked up and moved away to California. On my mom's side, my grandpa was born in the Philippines, in a small village up in the hills of northern Luzon. I had a chance to visit there a few years ago. This is what it looks like today. It's still a very small town on the edge of these vast rice fields. My grandpa, when he was young, had an opportunity to leave the village because the Dole plantation from Hawaii came to the Philippines to recruit laborers for their sugarcane fields. My grandpa volunteered and he took off all on his own. Now, here's the thing. At the time, my grandpa was only 13 years old. 13 years old. I don't know what you were like when you were 13. Personally, I was playing youth soccer, doing homework, playing video games at the pizza parlor after school. I can't imagine leaving my family, my friends, everything I know to go off and start a new life in a foreign land. But that's what he did. And here's the kicker. The minimum age to get on that ship was actually 16. So he lied about his age just to get on that boat, then sailed across the Pacific, and he worked in the fields for decades, first in Hawaii and then later in California. Eventually, he met my grandma, they got married, and they settled down together in Stockton. I have an ineffable amount of gratitude for both my sets of grandparents, for the choices and the sacrifices they made to move here and start new lives in California. Both sets of grandparents had children, and two of those children, my mom and my dad, went off to college at UC Davis, where they met each other and started dating. I asked my mom and my dad if it was ever an issue for them that they were from different cultural backgrounds, and they both said no. And keep in mind, this was California in the late 60s, early 70s. Maybe if they'd been born in a different decade or a different place, it would have been an obstacle. But for them and for their entire families, it was never an issue. However, that doesn't mean that their relationship went off without a hitch. For example, one day, very early on, they were just getting to know each other, and they were sitting together in math class at UC Davis when this fly landed on my mom's desk. My dad thinks, I know how to impress this girl. So he says, don't move. And he reaches over slowly and smashes the fly. My mom goes, how are you so good at that? And my dad smiles and says, oh, I eat flies. In my dad's mind, he was smooth, right? He just demonstrated his quick reflexes and his quick wit. My mom's mind, she's thinking, who is this weirdo? Right? But thankfully, they continued dating even after that incident. And I am so thankful that my parents were able to see past any racial or cultural differences to find love. And I'm especially thankful to my mom for seeing past my dad's strange and awkward attempts to woo her. In conclusion, oh, one more thing. Eventually they got married, obviously. They settled down in Sacramento and they had a family, which is where I come into the picture.
Oh.
In conclusion, coming back to my original question, what are you? What I am is a story. Each of us is here because of the sacrifices, the choices, and the love of those who came before us. So let's embrace that legacy by choosing courage, kindness, and gratitude in our own lives. Because the stories that we write today will shape generations to come. Back to you.